Blood tussle, they have a bug tussle in Arkansas, don't they? Yeah, I think there's a bug tussle. But you were talking about Little Avenue. Part of my, see, I can tell y'all, I can just tell you all kinds of stories, but similar thing happened in New York, and I'm gone, left New York short after that, and come to California. Howard was director from Hollywood, had come to New York, and through some people, I met him very, very briefly, and he said, if I wanted to come to California and do a screen test, he would make all the arrangements for me. He said if I would go to the lady in charge of his New York office, and if she thought I could qualify, she would send me to California, and they would take, Paramount Studios would take care of all my testing and everything to be a quote-unquote movie star. Now, so I went to the lady. Now, I didn't know nothing about acting. By this time, when I left New York, I'd been in acting school 2 weeks, and the lady wants to send me to California, so I decided by this time I think I'll be an actress. And so I get to California, I did my screen test and everything. They gave me 2 tests, one I was fit as a board, and then I got just a silly little notion about doing this little thing. And that's how I did my little scene, and they signed me to a movie contract. I did small parts in movies, and then one time came up a part, well, it was, speaking of Little Abner, it was Little Abner, and they wanted to do the lead in Little Abner. Well, it was, I mean, I'd just been an actor, just been under contract just a little while, you know. And so when head of the studio and Hal was, they would talk to me and they said about doing the lead in this movie that was coming up, and then, of course it was Little Abner. And so I said, well, I'll tell you, she finally getting some smart. I said, I'll tell you, you let that girl, she had more experience than me, but she started too, just starting out. And so I said, I'll tell you, you let her have the big part and just give me a little part. Because I knew I could learn. I didn't know nothing much then. But so I said, give her the big part and just give me a little part. So I was one of the 3 lovelies in Little Avenue. So that's right now. Time in a short while after that. Here I hadn't had much experience in anything, but this time, when they saw I wasn't ready to move, I wasn't ready to go and be a movie star. I didn't know nothing yet. And I knew I didn't know it. At least I'm getting a little sense, you know. I would have ruined my career if I'd have tried, if I had done Little Avenue. So it was like I turned down Little Avenue. I got one of the 3 lovelies. I got a small part. They gave her the big part. It was Leslie, and so I wasn't on a movie contract because I wasn't ready to move. In other words, they don't pay you good money and you not want to do little parts. I mean, they want you got to be ready to be a movie star, and I wasn't. But I didn't know that. I didn't understand it. But just to show you, the same thing happened in New York. Remember, I have this time to talk to y'all. I'll tell you the story in a church or somewhere. I'll tell you the story about New York. But now I've left New York, and now I've come to Hollywood, and now I've turned down this part of it in Little Avenue, the lead. That's the lead in the movie. They wanted me to give it to me, but I turned it down. But just a short while after that, a part called Elly May comes up in the Beverly Hillbillies, and I'm thrilled to death to do it here. See, it's God's timing is perfect. Had I taken that job in Little Avenue, I would never had the opportunity to do Elly May. But I turned that part down. The same thing happened in New York. And what I'm trying to show you, that let patients have a perfect work. Because had I taken that part, I would never have a chance to do Elly. And Elly would have brought more success than Little Avenue could have ever brought me. But it's just amazing that don't nudge God with your life. Don't always try to make things happen. Don't think you got the only say. Because if you let patients have a perfect work, because when God's timing was perfect, when I went up that part of Elly May, the day I went up to read for Elly May, Paul Henning, I'm not taking all the time, Paul Henning, creative producer, asked me, said, you reckon you could do this part? I thought my little old heart was going to pop wide open, and all I could do was just bump my head up and down, just bob it up and down. I was so thrilled. And of course, as I said, That was a great thing for me. But that afternoon was an automobile accident. I was stopped. Man runs in the back of my car, and I put in the hospital for 17 days. And I said, "Go get God. Just please let me get out of this hospital. Maybe I got a chance at that part." And so that was after interviewing over 500 girls, narrowed down to 6. He was free testified. They said 3 days you got the test. And I always tell people I'd just been out of hospital 3 days, and I was a little wobbly after being there so long. But you better know I was there. And I started to talk about where I come from. Everybody talks about like that. It just takes them a while to get it all out. They say, "You don't talk no fast enough, I don't want nobody on that camera but you." So I started talking fast. They had a nanny goat tied up over there. And they said, "You reckon you can milk that goat?" "Y'all, I never milked a goat in my life. It was put the same with them old cows was back on." I said, "Sure, I can milk that goat." That was my first critter. 600 later, 9 years after being on the show. Biggest shows ever been on television, you know, all those kind of things. But it's just amazing that we get impatient. And I said the same thing happened in New York. I turned down something, and God will, you can't outgive God, you can't outdo anything for God. It's amazing. I've just seen so many amazing things happen in my life. And had I taken this particular job in New York, run my career again, because I turned it down, which was not the right thing for me, but here's just a little, just tootling around with what I know. I don't know a lot of the word or nothing like that. I'm just trying to do the best I can do, and it was a matter. It was a wise move, and as a result of that, I got another big thing in New York. And the same thing happened with the Hillbillies. So it's just amazing when you look back over your life, the things that, how your lives have gone. So don't ever get anxious about your life or trying to make things happen. You know, just have the patience.